If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started and have fun.
I'm so excited and I just can't fight it. I'm about to puff, pass, and I like it.
Hey guys, on this week's episode, we have Discovery and Travel Channel's Sean Austin. He's a demonologist, paranormal investigator, psychic medium, author, and more. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Hello?
Hi, we can do it this way. Are you comfortable with just talking on the phone?
Yeah.
Awesome sauce.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if my phone just became haunted, to be honest with you.
You think so?
I don't know. Ever since I clicked your link, like, my internet's, like, not working. It was really bizarre.
I'm sorry to hear that.
No, whatever. I mean, I'm just like, I can't. I've never seen my phone do that before. It's just really weird.
Well, we made it. We've made it, everyone.
All right.
Made it. Sean Austin, author, medium, demonologist, paranormal investigator, and more. Welcome to the show.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions in random orders because it's kind of what I do.
Sure.
And if something pops into my head, I'm just going to fire off. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks for your flexibility. Okay, so define demon for me.
Okay. Well, a demon's a fallen angel. Obviously there's a bunch of angels that, works with God, and, a certain amount of these angels, including, Lucifer, once the most powerful and beautiful angel of them all, decided to go up against God over the creation of man. And they didn't want to worship a creature that has no higher knowledge. And they were consumed with the power and the greed and all the stuff that they wanted to have, because our souls land in our bodies without having any idea of where we really truly came from. It's based on faith and through our individual experiences. And again, that's why they fought God over the creation of human beings. And really, God wanted to create man for our capabilities, for our souls to learn, to bring a brightness to our soul with the opportunities that we can make with our free will choice throughout life, and be an example of what God stands for, and that's unconditional love and forgiveness. But that's why the devil and demons fought against this, and they were sent down here, and they're always looking for opportunities for us to invite them into our lives, to cause the chaos within and around us with who we truly care about, and ultimately look up and show some sort of mockery and say to God, look, man can't handle life with what life throws at you.
Okay. Would you? I'm now just like taking it in. I'm like, that all makes sense. So, would you consider a demon sighting a rare occasion?
Yeah, I mean, true demonic hauntings are not something you see like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That you're dealing with some things that could be, compared to something that could potentially be a true demonic infestation or, a haunting in general. But there's certain characteristics that I would be looking for, as a demonologist, and what the people are experiencing as a whole, the types of activity, because there's certain things that the demonic do, like things in threes. They want to do the mockery of the Holy Trinity. There could be any putrid smell that manifests that doesn't have a rational explanation. There could be scratching in the walls, the physical attacks, the recurring nightmares, seeing things with red glowing eyes. Like, there's certain things that I've been looking through. Or like, if a laundry, if a dryer was like thrown across the basement, and there's no human spirit that'd be able to do something like that. So, I mean, there's just certain things that I would look for, as well as my own, myself being my own piece of equipment and what I pick up, intuitively speaking, correlating with some of the scientific equipment I use on these investigations.
Okay. So have you done an exorcism before? Have you been involved with one?
I'm not able to do an exorcism myself. I've been trained to do an exorcism ritual on locations. So I can do that on houses and locations where there's an infestation. If there's someone that's truly being possessed, that'd have to be a priest to be able to do that sort of thing. But the only true possession case that I've dealt with is actually, or I'm actually heading to, it's a story about a girl who was demonically possessed while she was pregnant. And I experienced so much crazy stuff with this girl, and I wrote about it in my second book, Shadow Chasing Me in Between. And we're actually filming a documentary regarding this story because it's so insane.
Yeah.
And they're actually, we're planning to have an exorcism done on her at some point.
So that's kind of scary. So have you ever witnessed like what we would think of a demon in the flesh?
I've seen glowing yellow eyes, glowing red eyes. I've seen a shadow with horns right in front of me. I've had visions, psychic visions of just imagery of demonic things. I've definitely seen an assortment of things that I would have considered or would consider to be demonic. Absolutely.
Okay.
It depends on how they manifest, or if it's I'm picking up it psychically, or if it's manifesting right in front of me, which I have seen a few times over the years.
I'd probably shit my pants. I probably would. So, like, with everything that's captured out there, I feel like there is just an astronomical amount of paranormal evidence. Why do you think that there's still so many people who doubt the existence of things like the paranormal?
Well, number one, with the technology, you have people that are able to just right at their home fake videos of stuff and make it look like it's something legitimate. A lot of YouTubers and people do it just for the sake of attention, to get those views and become famous overnight because they realize that there's a niche for that. So people like us, we get criticized for that sort of thing because, when people look at videos and they believe it to be fake, then they paint a brush over everyone that's over in the field thinking that we all do the same thing, and that's just nonsense. But what I always say to people right now, the best way for you to experience something is through firsthand experience. Because if you are there to witness this and you have no rational explanation for the event that takes place, that's why we call it the unexplained. And these types of events that go on are reasons why myself, and I'm sure many others, people that get drawn into wanting to know more about this stuff and going out and searching for it, because we want to try to understand how these unexplained things do happen, because it is real. But because of the fakery and the videos that go on, and the Hollywood element that comes in and gets incorporated to a lot of this stuff, it does taint it to the point where people kind of get lost and they just watch from the outside and say it's just a bunch of crap.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yes.
So you're also a medium. So when did you first discover these gifts, or did you always kind of know, and how do you use them in your work?
I think there were a couple little signs throughout the years that I never noticed, because this is something that happened to me in the middle of my life. The psychic stuff really took place within the first year of investigating the paranormal, and I believe that is because I was engaged in the spirit world, and I triggered those abilities that were dormant within me the entire time. And I do believe that we all have psychic gifts. Some people will be more prone and naturally gifted than others, just like, people would be able to play, like I took 3 guitar lessons, and then music was my first passion. And I taught myself everything else after there. And like my ear became my best teacher. Now somebody else might take them like a year or two just to learn to get to a certain level. And I think that, people have certain talents and gifts, whatever genre or aspect of, life that they have to, pursue. But we all are spiritual beings living a human experience, and we have those gifts. They are there. And I think once you actually open yourself up to that and believe in the possibility of everything, more things would start to happen. And after a while, things would start to increase potentially where you could have a spiritual awakening. But it happened to me like with the flip of a switch. It was literally, the first night I got involved in the paranormal by mistake, trying to prove to a friend that ghosts are real, and took him to a cemetery that have a local, lore of 3 women in white that would chase you out of the cemetery. And I wanted him to have an experience. And instead, I was in front of a little girl's grave, and I recorded with my flip phone, asking if there's something there. And I didn't know till the next night that the little child whose grave that I was in front of, she responded to me, and it freaked me the hell out. It was terrifying, but it was exhilarating, because I watched all these shows. I was obsessed with horror movies and all this stuff, but it drew me right in. And actually 2 to 3 weeks after that first experience initially, I saw a shadow of a little girl at the corner of my bed, and it was even light out, and I just yelped out like, oh my God, it just poof, disappeared. And yeah, I would just start to have these experiences. Like I felt like I was skipping many spiritual pay grades, with things that were starting to happen to me within the first year. And I was starting to have premonitions and dreams and seeing things and feeling things. Like, it was pretty overwhelming. But when I first started having psychic abilities, I started reading books about demonology because I dealt with something that was dark that was around me, because I tried to help a spirit, find peace, which at the beginning of my journey, being a novice and not knowing what I was doing, I was actually doing religious provocation, and not having the knowledge that I have today, I would have been more prepared for it. But, I do believe that, everything kind of just, it happened pretty damn quickly, and I'm still developing my abilities to this day. But how I use them is really, I always saw myself helping out with cases going on and trying to find answers. I never saw myself lining up people to like do readings or that sort of thing.
So do you just help solve cases? Do you ever work with the police?
I have. Recently, this past year, I did help out with something. Yeah.
That's interesting. And so do you just receive like images, or is it like a full body kind of experience?
It depends. When you're sleeping, you're in a meditative state. Your subconscious is fully awake. Your rational mind's fully asleep. And this is why also spirits come to us while we're sleeping, because we're most susceptible to the telepathic projections of spirits, and they can give us messages, including our loved ones. And that's why I always tell people, if they have dreams about their loved ones, to take note of what that's happening in that dream. It could be symbolic. It could be something that means something at a future date. Even when I met Lorraine Warren, if you know who that is, she had told me when I first met her, keep a notebook next to your bed, write down these notes, and make a journal, because, these things can make sense and can help you along the way. But it could be dreams, it could be a vision, it could come to you just in the middle of the day out of nowhere. It could be spoken to you. It could be a bunch of different things. But depending on the type of case or what you're dealing with, even before going to like a residential case to try to help somebody, I might have a vision or a visitation for something in my bedroom, trying to sway me from going there, or trying to frighten me, or kind of getting like an introduction to what I might be having to go up against before going to a family's home.
Right. Typically when you do interact with things, are they combative, or are they just kind of like shooting the shit and haunting someone's house?
Well, I think the diversified amount of personalities that people have in life kind of equate to the ghosts, because that's really what ghosts are.
Yeah.
So, if they were angry in life, or they were not a good person in life, then that personality is going to translate over into the conscious of energy they are emitting into the dimension that they are in, and how they're interacting with us and ours in the physical plane. So, it just depends. I've had spirits come to me before going to a location, asking for help and asking for prayer, because that's something that I do. I always try to help them pray and, send them back into the light, because that's what, those ghosts are. They're earthbound, and they're stuck. They might be stuck because they want they want justice for their death, or they're scared of judgment because they're a bad person, or they're attached to a location or an object or something that's holding them back. Or there could be an evil spirit that's trapping them, which I encounter many times, and including my recent documentary Malefice, which is all about that. I crossed over 2 female spirits from an evil, sadistic man that was alive and tortured and killed these women in life, and there's a demonic force off of me because I helped these women, and it tried to take revenge against me. And 5 years later, I realized this, and I had to return back to the place. I investigated for 4 days, and then I did the exorcism ritual on the house to finally rid me of the evil. So, I mean, we take risks in investigating, especially, if you step in the way of evil, you make yourself an adversary to the enemy of man. That's the devil, and you have to be prepared for that choice, because they're always going to be looking for a crack in their door to take that revenge or use that opportunity at a later date at any point.
So whatever that was, for 5 years, you had been, like, it had followed you and, like, lingered in your, like, personal space for 5 years?
It would reference through, like, investigations through devices and stuff.
Okay.
But I never thought it would try to, like, do something until, like, a year ago, the beginning of the pandemic. I started seeing somebody, and I didn't feel myself like it was trying to cause chaos within a potential relationship. And what's the perfect revenge that it would want to take against me is try to take a female away from me because I took a female away from it, or females from it. And, it took credit for the catalyst of ending it and making me feel that, and wanting me to feel that. And I knew it was from that house, and that's when I knew I had to go back. So I can't give it the opportunity to try to, take revenge against me anymore, try to mess or influence my personal relationships.
Scary. So it is scary. I don't know what I would do. I'd be like freaked out all the time. Do you believe in cryptids?
You mean like, yeah, for me, it's like, I've never witnessed it before. The ghosts, I'm surrounded by it 24/7. It's fascinating to me. I've never gone out and searched for it. I mean, I'm sure that there's creatures out there that we've never even discovered yet. I have friends that are very big in cryptids and Bigfoots and stuff, and they've written books on it. But I do have a theory about Bigfoot, even though I've never experienced it. I believe it may be some prehistoric man-like creature that once lived, and that's what people are experiencing, because all the characteristics to its presence, a ghost can do the same. Wood knocking, footsteps, foul smell, rock throwing. I mean, every single thing that people have pretty much experienced with Bigfoot, we've experienced with ghosts, and it would also explain why this creature is so elusive and we've never captured it. Yeah. Because if it's a spiritual being, it would make sense, because in my opinion, if it was a physical being, we would have captured it by now. And I know that there are some people that actually believe that it might be going in and out of dimensions, but I don't see this thing as some sort of beyond intelligent creature, to be able to do that sort of thing. It seems very animalistic, but almost human-like, and the interaction that people have. So, I mean, that's my theory on it. I've never witnessed Bigfoot or any cryptids, but it's always been fascinating to me. I've never been on a search for it, but obviously, I mean, the paranormal as a whole, it's, obviously endlessly fascinating, but me, it's like, I got the ghosts. I mean, the ghosts are all around me. Yeah. I mean, I don't experience something crazy every day, but, like, being a medium and a sensitive, like, I experience something paranormal, like, every day. So, yeah. So it's all around me. It's not like I look up in the sky and I see something, and I've seen some UFOs, like, weird things in the sky. I don't know what they are, but, I mean, can we really say? I don't know, but it seems like those types of things, the cryptids and the UFOs, they're at a certain space where they're so far away that we have such a small nuance of them. When the ghost stuff, you can walk into a haunted home and investigate that place for an entire night and really have some interaction and really feel the presence of these things right there with you in that same room. And so that, I think it's a different ball game. But again, the paranormal, the unexplained, is all fascinating, and I'd be open to any possibility, considering of all the things that I've experienced myself.
Right, that's fair, right? So how can you tell the difference between a poltergeist versus a demon versus your average old haunting versus what someone might consider like a playful, like a sprite spirit kind of a thing?
Again, I mean, well, poltergeist, there's a couple of people that have different interpretations of what a poltergeist is. It is the German word for noisy ghost, or, but again, like, in my opinion, if there was something really heavy being thrown around that not even a human being could lift up, I would be very concerned about that, where it could be linked to an inhuman demonic haunting. There could just be an angry male spirit, though, somewhere, and it's kind of like knocking things over and, trying to give you nightmares. Or, I mean, it could still be a human spirit. So there's just little things that you look for that wouldn't be as so maniacal, per se, compared to something that's inhuman, that might be looking for attention or just trying to frighten you to a certain degree. And, especially me, like, going into a home after hearing the claims, whatever they may be, like, I can feel, like, when I walk into a home, if it's something that's truly oppressive and really dark, these sensations come over my body. I mean, I feel pressure in my chest. I feel like, someone's watching me, and I can just feel the power of the energy that's emanating from the location for whatever type of energy it is. It could just be sadness. It could be, again, it's just like, the movie Ghost of Patrick Swayze. I mean, a lot of these ghosts are just waving their hands, and they're like, I'm over here. I want to tell my story. I want you to hear me. I want to connect with you, because they want to feel like they're human still. They're alive in this physical plane, because that's really the real reason why they haven't transitioned and returned home, is because they feel like they're more connected on the human side of their life, when it's not really who we are truly. A spiritual being that came here to live temporarily to learn. And I think, and that's what I try to do, is to give the incentive and have those conversations with some of these spirits on an individual level, so they can really have an understanding and a good chance to kind of hand them that light in a dark room and say, this is your chance to go. Don't be afraid. You're not leaving us behind. You're just transitioning to a higher knowledge of why you came here in the first place, type of deal.
Right. So, since you could connect with your psychic ability, why do you feel like a spirit wouldn't just always do that versus using the spirit box or EVP whispers or anything like that? Like, why wouldn't they just connect with you as a medium?
I think spirits do, and it's, just because they're able to, I can pick up on certain things. It's not like I'm going to pick up everything.
Yeah.
Like a psychic's not going to be able to walk in there and do this just amazing magical thing. Now, sometimes it can be really crazy.
Yeah.
And I get downloads and feelings and the spirits that are around, and also to have some of those scientific pieces of equipment like the spirit boxes and, the EMF meters and such, to have them on, or to have some of these experiences psychically, to correlate them with some of the stuff that's coming through, and talking and conversing regarding some things that I may have mentioned psychically that I've seen, or, any of the hits on the EMFs that's just incorporating, connecting to an event that just took place, or, these are all things in different ways that the spirits can kind of interact and manifest through it. And there's so many energies that want to desperately come through, and I think, again, because of that desperation, they'll use any avenue that's available to them to try to communicate. Because, even for me, it's like, I always, when I pick up stuff, it's like you get little bits and pieces. Sometimes it can be really intense, really big, and kind of clear who you're connecting to. And sometimes it's like a game of spiritual charades. It's like symbolic. You might get a couple of images they're like puzzle pieces. Yeah. And that's really what all these little devices, and having like someone who has a psychic ability, it's just, they're all puzzle pieces you're bringing together to come to a, more of a culmination of what may be truly there and why it's there, and how you can like help the situation.
Yeah. I get it. I mean, I don't get it, but I get it. So what's the scariest situation you think you've been in thus far?
So funny, when I was on the opposite side of the spectrum, like, when I was first meeting some people in the paranormal field that were, respected, like, I would ask them the same question. Yeah. And it's funny, I get that same question all the time now.
I love scary stuff, so I'm just like, I'm so easy to spook too. All you have to do is pop out and I scream, so I'm like, I'm into it.
Yeah, I've had so many scary things happen. I was just talking about the story with this girl. She would come out of a trance and she was carving an upside down cross in her pregnant belly with a screwdriver and not remembering it. Yeah. She was speaking English backwards to me on the phone, and I didn't understand what she was saying until I put the audio that I recorded in reverse. And one time I actually had a 6-inch crucifix, and she was speaking to me like a man, like a 23-year-old girl, and saying, Sean, she's mine. just like that. And she cannot see me on the phone, and I put the cross right up to the phone, and she hissed at me.
That's so creepy.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I've had some hoofed creature with tails and red eyes in my bedroom growling at me. I mean, I've been pulled out of my bed by my ankle. I mean, doors slamming, objects being thrown. I've seen shadows. I mean, things have growled at me. I've been scratched before.
Now, do you feel like, I mean, this doesn't happen to the average person. Do you feel like if you're seeking it to understand it more, you're naturally going to be more prone to having these kinds of incidents occur to you?
Well, absolutely, because I like to call it spiritual rules of engagement, because once you actually step into the layer of these spirits and have the intent to try to connect with them, then I feel like they're allowed to connect with you, and they might latch on to you and follow you home.
Yeah. Word to the wise.
So,
it's a word to the wise.
Yeah, I mean, I take every precaution necessary, but because of the work I do, I mean, trying to help people and even spirits that are trapped, I mean, evil spirits get really pissed off of that crap. So I'm a little bit more of a special case, but, I always warn people, it's really important to go out and read up on the paranormal. I mean, the first book I ever read was The Demonologist by Ed and Lorraine Warren, and then I read John Zaffis' book, and then Ralph Starkey's book, who was my mentor in demonology. And if you're not familiar with him, he was the inspiration for the 2014 movie Deliver Us from Evil. Eric Bana was a cop that's based on, inspired by Ralph's book. He also worked with the Warrens, and who taught me about demonology himself. So, just being around these things and learning about what can happen, because it is a thrill ride. I get it. But there's really a lot of danger that comes along with it. I mean, this is something that can stick with you for years and hide in the shadows that you may have invited in from something you've done, and it just can wait dormantly, patiently, easily, because there's no conception of time in the spirit world until it has the best chance to try to victimize you if it's that type of energy and wants to cause negativity in your life. So I think it's really important to read up on stuff and what can happen before you decide to kind of do some of these things.
Are you ever afraid that it's going to affect your future with whomever you might be dating, or if you end up having children, if they have children, you're dating, whatever?
I feel like it's almost like, okay, so my book Shadow Chaser, like a friend of mine, good friend of mine, she showed my picture to a psychic she trusts, and she just wanted to say, what are your psychic impressions on Sean? And this lady did not know me, and she called me a shadow chaser. And my friend asked her, what do you mean? She said, he's meant to take shadows and send them back to where they belong. That's why I called my book that. It wasn't something I just come up with myself.
Right.
And, having something like that happen, it's just like, it's a calling. It's a calling to deal with this sort of stuff. And, obviously, even what just happened to me, last year, and that story, like, realizing, just got to be really careful about, things that'll try to mess with you and try to intercept at certain, times in your life because of the work I do. But it's something I'm meant to be a part of. And there's also an advantage, too, because, I mean, I see so many times, like, married couples move into a house and the husband's not even supportive or even believing any story of the wife. And, because of that, the negative spirits that might be in a home, because of that separation of belief, will use that time period to take advantage of the situation and can get to an escalation and dangerous point. And what may be actually happening in a home. I see it so many times. I mean, so I think it's an advantage. I mean, to be aware of this stuff. And if I ever did have a child, I mean, I think it's so important to support the child if they're seeing something or if they have an imaginary friend. Pay attention to some of the things that they may say. Children are fresh from the spirit world. They have not been contaminated with irrational perspectives that we hammer into their impressionable minds. And, they have a lot of these natural gifts that we lose as we're growing up because our parents want to go to sleep and they say it's all fake to ourselves. So, it's important to be supportive and be aware of this stuff. I mean, and even speaking to like Ralph and, what he grew up in, being married and have kids, I mean, they'd have a couple of things happen. I think his daughter had a picture frame pick up and get thrown across the room one time. But,
no big deal.
No big deal. I mean, it's never a dull moment, but I mean, this stuff is scary, of course, but I mean, that's where my faith comes in. I mean, if you truly believe that God's more powerful than any devil, demon, or diabolical force, it will not be able to do idealistically what it wants to do to you.
Yeah.
You can't fight these things with fists or guns, and your spirituality has got to be intact. I mean, you know, I was brought up, you know, Catholic, and I obviously approached that, being Catholic and spiritual, and, you know, witnessing evil spirits react negatively, things of religious significance. That's why I hold it close to my heart and soul, because, again, it doesn't matter how strong you are physically, it's how strong you are spiritually that will protect you in the end, because these things know our weaknesses consciously in your past, and the things that they can manipulate and use to their advantage to break you down. So knowing this stuff, experiencing it firsthand, and that's why it's so important to be aware of, again, these scenarios that can take place and the types of things that can mess with you. And I know there's other interpretations, and I don't judge anyone who has a different belief system than me, or, you know, how they approach things, but obviously, you know, this is the path that I'm meant to be a part of, and I'm just doing what I feel like I'm meant to do, and just try to follow and be guided by that, and try to do whatever good and positive things I can with my knowledge and my experiences to share with whoever I can.
Well said, Sean. That was really well said. What would you consider your most paramount piece of captured evidence?
I recently just had an insane paranormal experience. I can't talk about it yet because it's not I can't talk about it, but at some point I can come back and tell you about that one. But,
okay.
I think, I mean, intense. I mean, you know, if you watch the documentary Maleficent, you know, when I came home after I believe I crossed over those spirits, I had this vision of this zombie-like man's face. His mouth was falling off, and he glided his finger across his neck at my bed, like you're dead. And then I saw this black horned shadow at the corner of my bed, and it spoke. When it spoke, it was like it threw a subwoofer, and it just goes like, you know, there are rules, in a really dark, messed up voice. And I didn't know what exactly that meant. And I was trying to figure that out, and it gets unraveled in the documentary, what those rules technically are and who changed them, and, you know, what took place from that. But I don't know. I've had outer body experiences. I've left my body while sleeping. I've seen myself sleeping. I could give you a crazy outer body experience I had. One time I came out of my body and I was actually floating up in church, and I could actually see my 8-year-old self, and my dad was right next to me. I could hear the church music so vividly. And as I got closer to the pew that I was standing next to my dad, my younger self looked back at me, and I just heard this echoing voice going, Sean, you're going back too far. You need to come back. And I felt my body get sucked back into my physical body. And I woke up humming the church music. That was definitely an intense, crazy. It's not necessarily scary, but it's just like, whoa.
I mean, it's trippy as shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would be so freaked out. You're so casual. You're like, yeah, and then after I morphed into another dimension.
Yeah, pretty much. At this rate, I mean, it's ridiculous. So, I mean, yeah, I've had some, nice experiences, a couple of nice experiences too. Like an angel came to me in my bed, and I felt this just amazing light over my body. It felt like I was laying out on the beach in a sunny, beautiful day, listening to the ocean, times a million. It just pure, utter peace, and it said to me, peace be with you, and kind of gave me some guidance on how to deal with some of the dark entities that I'd have to deal with, and then said this very profound statement to me that will live with me forever, is to believe in yourself to be greater than you think you are. And I think there's a lot of people that may use whatever God they worship, I mean, whatever it is, as some sort of crutch. It's like, we're here to really do the work. And I think, praying to God and stuff like that, to use it for guidance and for help. But I mean, we're really here to endure. I mean, life's not about being perfect. It's about learning through struggle. And I think if people could really take that notion and have a deeper understanding of it, we'd be able to handle life and, turn some of the dark things that we have to endure and make it into something light and share it with the world where it doesn't reach. And I think that's really the special part of life, you know, being appreciative of the good times in life, that when it does happen, you know, with family and friends, and the things that we are humbled to be a part of or to have in our lives, and really doing something that helps others, however it may be. So, you know, I think that statement's, you know, very profound in nature and something that we should all live by.
Yeah. Again, you get me in my heartstrings, Sean. You're getting me. So, October, you have the release of your documentary, Abby.
Oh, yeah, that's the name of the girl, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then that's also Shadow Chaser, which is out now. Do you have any other additional upcoming projects you're working on? Any, like, fun little secrets, something or another you want to tell anybody, something?
There's a project I can't speak about yet. I got the documentary coming out. I am going back to Nashville to record some new songs, and one of them is actually connected to an insane paranormal experience that I wasn't able to tell you yet, but I will be able to tell people. That is just so amazing, and it brought me to tears. And I can't wait to share that when I can. So I'm excited to get that and done as well. So yeah, documentary, more music, and other projects coming out next year.
Awesome sauce. And where can our friends find you, Sean?
You can get signed copies of the DVD, my music, or signed copies of my book anywhere in the U.S. from my website, SeanDAustin.com, SEAN, D as in David, AUSTIN.com, or just look up that same Sean D. Austin on Instagram or Twitter or all the above.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. You are a really, really, really interesting person to talk to. And I truly believe it. I think it is the coolest thing to be able to have the opportunity to have these kinds of gifts presented to you. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Awesome sauce. Alrighty. Well, I will talk to you soon.
All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, babe. Thank you all so much for listening to this week's episode. I hope you guys learned a lot. I sure did. Please tell all of your friends. Follow us on Instagram at Puff Puff Pass the Podcast. And find us on Facebook. Find us everywhere. Let's be friends. Thanks, and see you next week.